Good afternoon, dear colleagues. Today is the 17th of September 2024. It's my pleasure to introduce Hande, Özkayagan, Prändl, and Adriana Winkelmeier to you. Both are participating in quite some work that we have at the department. Both of them are research associates at the department. This is Hande's website, and this is Adriana's website. If you want to study this a little bit more in detail, the links to both curricula are in the show notes. So both of them have been working with us at the department, but that's not the reason why they are here today. The reason why they are here is that both of them participated in this conference here. It's the Women in Law Conference 2024 that took place here in Vienna last week. Both of them were on a panel dealing with AI as a game changer, or as whatever you want it to be, as a challenge, as an opportunity, whatever, to the legal profession and legal education. And the purpose of today's conversation is to speak to both of them about the conference and about some of the learnings that they would like to share with us. Hande, thank you very much for being here.
Thank you.
What is your main wrap-up or your main takeaway of the conference? How would you describe the conference?
Well, thank you so much for having me here. It was, to emphasize first, it was my first time attending this conference. And I'm a bit ashamed because as an international living in Vienna, I wish that I knew earlier about this, because it's a wonderful opportunity to meet other fellow colleagues, not just from Vienna, not just from Austria, but all around the world. So it's a wonderful setting to discuss issues that affect women in law primarily, but also actually any legal professional as well. And that was pretty much what was related to our panel topic, AI and the impact of AI on legal professions. I mean, many topics were discussed: access to justice, equality in legal professions. But for me, I would say very, very broadly, I suppose we will go into the details of it, but my main takeaway was that there are many issues to tackle, and it's not only a topic for women, but it's also a topic for men, very much so, and that they should also be very much informed of this, encouraged to be involved in the debate, not be scared to talk about the inequality that we have in legal professions, and become, like, to recruit more male allies, so to say. Especially, I remember the introductory statements on the first day, and like many people emphasized how much like there is this scared feeling to discuss equality, like gender issues in law, also more broadly, but particularly within our profession. And everyone, that was my main takeaway, that we actually make this a bit more prominent topic and feel more comfortable to discuss this with everybody.
And Hande, what was your main lesson learned so far from the conference, or your main impression? Sorry, Adriana.
Yeah.
Of course, Adriana. Sorry, excuse me, Adriana. Sorry.
All good.
For me, it was already the second time attending the conference. I attended first time last year as a participant, and this year as a panel speaker. And for me, it was already last time really great to see, to meet a lot of people around the world, and see that a lot of, especially also women, have similar experiences in their world. So we had participants all around the world, and we tackled really interesting topics. In the first day, it was more like conference style with different panels, and we discussed several topics like equal pay around the world in different countries. And on the second day, we delved more into workshop like topics like our topic, for example, the AI, but also access to justice. And what I also like, it's not only that there's a big exchange of different countries and different regions in the world, but also different age groups. And on the one hand, we had a lot of newcomers in law talking about their situations, but also had the other point of view and how it changed in the last 20, 30 and 40 years. So that was also quite impressive to see how much we already managed and how much already changed in the past. And yeah, it was a great experience to attend this, and it was also great to see it from the other side. Also, a great thing about the conference is that on Friday evenings, there's always the chance to participate in the Justitia Awards, where there's they have a ceremony and they give prizes for different categories. For example, lifetime awards, also newcomers and people who break glass ceilings in their areas. So that was really fascinating and super inspiring to see and also to learn from.
I see. Okay. And so you would recommend to go there. This is what I take from both of you, right? And you also, both of you stated somehow that it's a conference that consists of many international people and that male allies are welcome. Let's put it like this, neutrally, right? So, okay. So why do you think that they put a topic on AI on the agenda? Is that, I mean, is this self-explaining? Is this evident?
If I can quick jump in here, Hande, because last year we had already a bit of a technical topic, and it quick went into the AI direction, and I think it was already visible that this is a really big upcoming topic, and a lot of people have interest in that because the panel last year was not directly stated as AI, but somehow the direction of the topic soon took over the topic, and a lot of people had questions. And I think for me, already back then, there were so many open questions and also so much potential to talk about. And I think that was also why it was a whole panel on this year's agenda, because it has a big potential to influence our future work. And I think a lot of people and a lot of lawyers who don't really work with it yet are interested and curious about it, but don't have maybe so much knowledge about it. And I think that was one of the reasons why they took the chance to use this panel.
Yeah. Hande?
Yeah, very well said. I mean, there's a lot of hype around the word AI, obviously around the developments, but also the impact is quite tangible too, even though we don't sometimes starkly feel it. Or one of our panelists, Marie, she was stating that in her regular day-to-day work, she has no experience with AI. So we still have groups that don't use AI actively and don't feel the direct impact of this in their regular work. But that doesn't negate the fact that it's not much present in our lives. So I think also for our panel too, that actually provided a great mix, that we had people who had nothing to do with it, we had researchers on it, and we had people using it in academia and also for legal professions. And we hope that we managed to give good insights on it, actually.
Yeah. So perhaps you would like to describe what the topics on the panel were and what your contribution to them was.
Yeah, perhaps I can start. I mean, we actually planned quite a few topics of discussion. We unfortunately didn't have time to discuss everything. Specifically, like we were even planning with Adriana to discuss how we encounter in academia the issues with AI, meaning do we have enough, do we educate our students enough on the use of AI in law? And if not, then what should we be doing? We couldn't touch upon everything, but we started by sort of giving a wrap up of what legal tools are out there that are already in use that we are aware of, so to like set the scene a bit for our participants, for our listeners. And then we discussed, like Fabian gave a quick wrap up of the framework for people, like the legal framework for people who might be unaware of what's out there, especially in EU, because we had participants also from Turkey, for instance, from my home country, which was really very nice. So to, again, inform people how the regulatory status is on that. And then we dived into elaborating on a bit the opportunities that AI might provide us in our legal profession. We talked about automation, becoming efficient, becoming faster, and perhaps focusing on tasks that might enhance our capabilities further, not just on very standard tasks. But we also very, very regularly emphasize that there are risks out there, not only like regarding data quality, but also bias and with respect to gender as well. And again, it's such a broad topic. We didn't have time to tackle everything, but we tried to leave it a bit more optimistic, stating that, yes, there are things to elaborate, but this indeed opens a conversation. So as very, very broadly, that's how I could describe it from my side. But perhaps Adriana has some stuff to add in case that I missed something.
No, I couldn't describe it more perfectly. I think, especially for the participants, when I'm asked, I think the main three takeaways were, I think in the beginning, as you said, the scene was set, and that was really important because I think a lot of people underestimate how much they might use AI already in their daily life. For example, maybe with translation tools like or spam filters or different areas. So it's not only just classical large language models with ChatGPT. So I think that was already good in the beginning, that everyone knew what we were talking about. And then we also dived more into where universities are going and regarding the legal education. I think this point personally for me was really important because sometimes I'm asking myself, in the future, we will use AI and we will use it as a tool. Like in the past, we started using computers, and now no one is really talking about it anymore because it's just so integrated in our life. But sometimes I'm a bit afraid, and I said that also in the conference, that we maybe miss to educate new upcoming students and new lawyers how to use those tools in order to really make them useful for them. So that was also a big point. And what also I really liked is that also we had someone in the panel who didn't use AI much so far. So there came also the question of like, who is responsible for this and who is liable? And can we blindly trust on that? So we also dived into that. And I think this gave a really great overview on the most important things.
Yeah, and I mean, I was listening to this, and I would like to share with you my impression. And also, Hande, you said that before, that I think the educational part, so how universities are dealing with this, and in how far legal education needs to be changed, is of eminent importance, as well as the regulatory environment. So, of course, one should also know about what the law says about this. So the AI Act, of course, is something you can't ignore anymore. And last but not least, it's also important to take the industry with you, the legal industry, so people who are out there and do daily work. And that was, in my view, perfectly well represented in the conversation on the panel, and also outside from the classroom, also during the coffee breaks and so. As long as I saw them, I think that was a very important topic. So my question to both of you, being young legal scholars and working in a university environment on a daily basis, what would you say would be your recommendation to universities when they want to be prepared for the impact of AI on the legal system with a gender-sensitive perspective? What would be, first things first, what would you recommend to do?
If I can go ahead. Yeah. Please, Adriana, go ahead.
What I think is already really important, there's this big fear of artificial intelligence that students might use it in the future to write their homeworks and write their theses and so on. But I think what the universities underestimate, it seems so much like a big fear. But the fact is that students will use it and are probably already using it a lot. And I would like to have an approach in the future where we encourage the students to use those tools mindful, and that they are aware what is behind it, how do they work, and use it, for example, to broaden their skills, not to blindly trust them, but to use them, for example, as a brainstorming mechanism. But always be aware that they cannot just write everything the artificial intelligence model tells you, that they have to be mindful, but maybe to give it a bit more of inspirational tasks, that they also, the organizational point of views, for example, can be maybe easier with writing emails or summarizing text, but always be mindful that you have to double check that. So that would be one point. I would like to say that not blindly using it, but use it for the future. And on the other hand, we already at the department have some courses on that. I like that students are aware of the different legal systems behind it, and that they are aware that there is, for example, bias in the different systems, because they're trained with different data sets, and they have to realize that everything which is put into those systems is maybe full of various racist or gender stereotypes, and they have to be mindful not only about fact-checking points, but also regarding those biases for the future. But if they are mindful, I would really love if the universities start encouraging students to use them and to broaden their skills with that.
Hande?
Perfect. I mean, just to perhaps state it a bit differently and to build upon it, because I agree with what Adriana stated. I also see the problem a bit two-stage, so to say. The first one is more about like the use of AI during the academic studies of the students and the academic integrity, the topic of academic integrity, and really encouraging the students to be not just taking whatever the AI produces and just using it without really thinking about it, but still keeping their analytical skills and investing in their legal education without being heavily dependent on AI tools, but still using them, as Adriana stated, to be aware of how they work, to also detect whether the tools function properly or what might be the problems, because we cannot really understand this without actually without a hands-on approach, without using these tools ourselves. So that's, to me, one part of the problem. But the other one also, that we need to teach the students with respect to whatever new technologies are incoming, and also in this case AI, for their future, to also make them aware, look, in practice these are being used for these fields, like what is your opinion, where do you see like we might be lacking as a legal profession with respect to the integration of new technologies, and what should be the way forward, to have this conversation with them so that they are more aware of what awaits them in their future for their legal professions, so that they're not sort of feeling like a fish in the water all of a sudden, that like when they start their legal careers. So I find this a bit like two-sided, up like two different questions, so to say, two different discussion topics. But to me also, apart from a more mindful usage, of course, what is incredibly valuable, so to say, is having really more collaboration with people from different disciplines to really understand better how the tools work, also to give great insights to the students themselves in exploring these tools. I know, for instance, I'm actually very, very amazed by this course that we are offering at the Department of Legal Hackathon, where law students are collaborating with students from FH campus in Wien, from computer science, and where they're trying to come up with solutions, legal tech solutions. And there is this incredibly interesting interdisciplinary conversation. And I find these interactions very, very valuable, because that was also one of the points that was emphasized in the panel. We cannot think of the use of AI in legal professions like in isolation, because we as legal professionals don't always have a good insight into the technical aspects of how these tools work. This really requires us to collaborate with people from different disciplines, also not just people from the technical sciences, but also social sciences. You also emphasize psychologists, and also the understanding the economic aspects of it. So these technologies introduce a necessity to incorporate different disciplines altogether. It's a challenging task. It's not easy. To be frank, I think as a university, we can also do better at this too, because it's not a topic only for us in isolation, but it concerns all branches, all faculties at the university, and also not just our university, but all universities. And there should be more collaboration as well. So that would be my main word here, collaboration, because otherwise we cannot really move forward here,
If I could quick add to that, what was really valuable for me as a student, when at the end of my studies, I also joined the Legal Hackathon Hande just mentioned, and it was actually the first time in my whole university career where I had an interdisciplinary approach. And so far, I was always in courses with other lawyers, and there we really worked together with IT students, and those times really gave me new perspectives, because I think as a law student, you really learn a specific kind of thinking, but you are never in touch with how other students from other disciplines think in their way. And I learned a lot of different point of views, and I learned to look at a problem from a different perspective. And as we heard also in our panel discussion, the law curriculum didn't change in a long time, and it is always really, really similar. But for me, it was really valuable that I took a course with an interdisciplinary approach, even though this was an election course and not an obligatory course. I think if I would have had earlier the pressure in my university career to go into a course with other with other study directions, that would have helped also a lot.
Very well said. Yeah.
From a university perspective, I think there are two more points to mention here. The first one is one of the standard problems, of course, is if you want to run courses in an interdisciplinary way, in a very technology-heavy environment or topic, the problem is that many of the teachers don't know that. It's that simple, right? I mean, most of the staff educated today did go through a traditional legal curriculum, and AI is not something that you do after dinner quickly, right? You need to have quite some specific knowledge about that and expertise. And my question, therefore, would be: in how far would you say that how could universities tackle this problem? That would be my first question. And the second question: in how far is this an opportunity, or is it a threat for young women working in university environments when they need to find their, their specific area of expertise that they would be valued for? Is this something where you think that you personally should go deeper into, or is this more a problem because if you go deeper there, you can't go deeper into the traditional legal doctrine? So that's a very tough question, obviously, but it's, I think, a very important question to young academics, in particular young female academics at the moment.
That's true. I mean, if I may, like very quickly, because it is indeed a tough question to answer. And I can understand it's frightening. Also, it's a bit uncomfortable, of course. Like, we are very used to one type of way of thinking in our legal education, as Adriana also put it. And we don't always have opportunities or time to invest in different teaching methods, to invest in collaborating or understanding how different disciplines work. I mean, I completely understand that this requires a lot of energy, but I also see this as an opportunity to improve ourselves personally, because that's what our panel was about, right? To prepare ourselves for the future, what happens in the future. And if our legal education at the moment is not yet fit for this, or it's in development, that's what's like being active, aware people, like academics and also professionals, like being about, right? Like, we need to really seize also the opportunities around us to really detect what are the lacking points, like how we can invest in ourselves to become like ready for the future of our legal profession. So I actually, like, I understand the concern, especially in an academic setting, like how do we even, like, where do we start? Like, how do we start doing this interdisciplinary teaching, collaboration, because people might not have the skill sets. But I think then here the university has actually quite an important role in encouraging this, like I'm just on the top of my head with like any workshops, or really encouraging its staff or academics to do whatever research path or like whatever visits that they wish to do, or like to really emphasize the importance of this. I think it's also should come from the top a bit more, rather than like a bit of like a struggle from the bottom up. But like, we need to feel the support and like the support of the university with us that takes us through that journey. I find it actually rather valuable, and that can be useful. And for your second question, like as a gender issue, I actually, to be honest, haven't looked at it that way, that as a woman that this could create a problem for me, but rather like I'm really more interested in how I can personally, for myself as a person, like improve my skill set, and to really actually use this as an opportunity where I have a voice, where I have a say as an academic too, and also incorporate this in my teachings, the importance of this and how we tackle this, to make my students aware. Because I think that's really very valuable, especially for students who might be lost. I remember, like, I teach copyright courses sometimes at the department, and the students have an incredible amount of questions when it comes to AI and its interplay with copyright. So that actually shows us like these points where we can seize the opportunity as an academics, as a woman in academic career, that I can also perhaps like lead the conversation in this. I find this very valuable. Perhaps I don't do this enough, but that's actually also like where I can see an opportunity, and also all women, but all our academic colleagues can do so, because there is a need, like we need to have this conversation, right?
Thank you. Adriana?
Regarding the interdisciplinary part of the legal education, I might understand that it is hard to decide in how deep you dive into different other study directions. But I think what would be a good approach, because there are so many, you could dive more into the IT part, or technical, also into the more like the teacher-wise part. But I think it would be a good approach at the university if they would offer a variety of courses, and the students can decide by themselves and collect, for example, the courses they want to have with interdisciplinary approach, so that they kind of can shape their future, but still in an interdisciplinary way, but they can choose for themselves. I think that would be a good approach. And regarding the gender topic, I'm not 100% sure if I understood the question right, but if the question is that if there is maybe the fear that women cannot, because of stereotypes in the education, will not find their way really good in the IT, I can say, for example, from my experience, in our diploma seminars, for example, we always have a really high percentage of women, and they are researching on the on data protection, and they are researching on platform law and AI and different security issues. So there was always a really big interest for all genders, at least at the department for our courses. And furthermore, also at the department, as it's so great, we have a really big percentage of brilliant women here, and I would see that as a sign that the gender stereotypes in that direction and in the technology law direction might change.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, actually, this was one part of the question. The other part is there is this well-known leaky pipeline phenomenon when it comes to academic careers, so that there are more women when academic careers start, and in the early stages of the career, and the more and more advanced people become, the less and less women are there, the more and more males are there. And there are, of course, plenty of possible reasons for this. One of them might be that the career per se is risky, and that some males at least, might tend to take those risks more easily than women. And if that were true, and there were an additional risk coming now, which is you also need to know about AI, or you need to know to decide on whether you need to know something about AI, that might again cause additional issues for women, or for women wishing to stay in academia. That was one part of the question. But I mean, this is probably something one needs to be aware of, but nothing that we can actively try to solve in this talk now. But at least we can take it as an issue, perhaps. Yeah. Was there something, Adriana, Hande, was there something on the panel or off the panel that was completely new to you, mind-opening, astonishing, making you specifically optimistic, apart from the things that we heard already?
I can perhaps go ahead, if I may. This was also actually a very special conference for me, because I wasn't expecting it, in all honesty, but there were quite a few Turkish people from my home country who were there. And even on the first day, we had the panelists from my country who was talking about like how the development of women's rights and also women in legal education, legal profession sort of developed. And it was, to be honest, a wonderful insight from it. Really gave me goosebumps. I got really quite emotional, I must say. But also that particular panelist whom I got the chance to talk to later on, an incredible person, and like very young, but very, very already has done incredible things in her legal career, really astonishing. And she like very rightly and also courageously put that we women, this is nothing to do with like the technological part or anything, but more broadly how we women approach the legal profession or in general professions. She put that we are more afraid of making mistakes, and men perhaps have more, like they are more courageous when they do mistakes, or when they do actions that might lead to mistakes, but they don't then perhaps dwell on it much. But we, like the perfectionistic leniency, so to say, is a bit more dominant inside us, and that's why the majority of the women tend to perhaps be a bit more hesitant to make mistakes. And this was, to me, actually a very, very incredible moment, because I just saw a lot of like nodding heads. So it's not only a problem from the Turkish perspective, but also perhaps it's relevant for women from all around the world. And that sort of, that moment encouraged us to really like perhaps bond over these issues a lot, and then to really realize that there is nothing to be afraid of here, like with respect to making mistakes, especially like not just in legal professions, but in any profession as women. Like just because we are women, that should not be a problem for us. That should not be a problem at all, because we can all learn from our mistakes. And that, I thought it was a very inspiring moment, to be honest. Just as a very and it gave me this sense of optimism, as you all mentioned, because like it showed that we can all get together to discuss these topics very openly, and that was really very inspiring.
Great, thank you, Adriana.
For me, the biggest takeaway and inspiring us in the conference was the topic of awareness, because I think all around the world we are somehow aware of a lot of problems, but it is important that they are mentioned and that they are talked also loud, and also the achievements which are made in the past, for example, also to realize again how late women in different countries and different universities started becoming the first full professorship, for example, or when there was the first lawyer in a country. So sometimes for me, because there was also some great speeches about that, it was a bit shocking to realize that the first full professorships, even in Austria, are not even that long ago for women to shape their path. That on the one hand, so the awareness point was really important for me here, and on the other hand, it was also really for me important and also devastating to see that how are the situations are in other countries at the world. For example, we had also great speeches about some situations in some countries in Africa, and there we talked about the transparency in general with salaries, and we realized that that transparency in salaries, for example, is not even a topic which is talked about loudly. It's not even a discussion yet if the salary should be transparent and for equal loan and stuff. And here in Austria, for example, I think we have already a discussion where maybe 30, 40 years it was you could not imagine to talk about transparency, but I think at the moment we are already talking at least about it, even though we didn't reach it. Depending on some public jobs, you have it, but in the private sector not. But for me, it was great to see, or it was interesting to see on what different levels different countries are standing about women topics, about salary topics, and about rights, also talking about maternity leave, for example, how different it is around the world and how different are the different challenges there. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Good. Thank you so much, Adriana. Thank you so much, Hande. I think this gave an excellent overview about your contribution to this very, very relevant conference. Here is some additional material available on the website of the conference and also on the panel in particular. If you're interested, kindly have a look on this website. The link is in the show notes below. Did we forget something, Adriana or Hande? Is there anything that you still find very important to be considered, or did we cover everything?
For me, we covered everything important.
Yes, this was a nice wrap up, I think.
Okay. So thank you very much then once again to both of you. Thank you to all of you who listen to this. I do hope that we stay in touch and that you stay connected with us. Please take care and stay as healthy as possible. And please make yourself being listened, and also think about participating in this conference if you wish. It's going to happen again next year. More info also on the website. Thank you very much. Have a good day and all the best to all of you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.